Okay, chapter 4, cost volume profit analysis. And these are just some notes to go with the chapter, and everything in the chapter actually comes off this same relationship right here. So there are 5 major sections. Okay, we've got, first of all, they started out with contribution margin and break even. Then CVP analysis and margin of safety. Standard and modified BE formulas, and all we're doing there is adding in target profit or not, and also the tax effect, and multiple products. Okay, so in this first part, what we'll do is get through, I think, okay, we should be able to get through the first 2 for sure, and maybe part of this one. At least do target profit. I'd like to do taxes together. So the real question is, in my business, how much do I need to sell in order to cover my fixed costs? All right, that's a really critical question. And it's important when you think of how you're going to finance your capacity. I mean, if you've got fixed costs, then that's a fixed nut that you have to cover. Or if I want to make so much money. And then, what's the tax effect of it? So I've got one sentence here that if you've got these notes, you might want to highlight. But the break even is the point where contribution margin equals fixed costs. Okay, I've got an operating equals fixed costs. Oh, and operating income equals 0. Okay, and we can calculate this in units or dollars. So here's just a brief problem. I think this is a brief problem from the text. And it's got the fixed costs include a designing fee for $75, a shipping fee for $25. They are total $100, and the variable costs are $15 a unit. So if I have sales of, or if the question is, at what point does operating income equal 0? Okay. Now really make sure you look at this, because something like this for sure will be on the next exam. But this is, you can see where the fixed costs are in order for this to be 0, the fixed costs have to be equal to the contribution margin. So the contribution margin here has to be 100. Okay? All right, so that's a pretty cool thing. So if you take 100, then divide it by 5, our x would be 20 is what it would be. But you can solve that yourself. But I love this relationship in realizing that it's just exactly where your contribution margin is equal to your fixed costs. We usually use formulas in that when we do this. We don't look at full-size statements like this, but it's nice to remember that relationship. And so the contribution margin, as you know from the last chapter, is revenue minus variable cost. Okay? And the other thing I wanted to show you here, and then we'll do some problems, is that if you separate costs by cost behavior, all right, so we've got variable on the top and then fixed down below, as opposed to product cost and period cost on a traditional statement, then we can project different scenarios. And the reason is that this relationship, if sales are 100% and variable cost is 40%, no matter how much you increase the units, okay, how many you're going to sell, that's still going to be 40%. And the contribution margin ratio is going to be 60%. Okay? So, like if I have a problem, you just put it in your head sometimes, but I've got a problem that I think the difficulty here is the way the problems come. They can be hard. So if I had a problem that had, where spotty information, where they gave me this, but they didn't give me this, and I don't know what this is, and I had to fill it in, I prepared this chart just like this, and then I put a real quick contribution margin format income statement down, then a per unit, in total, and the percentage. Okay? But this percent can never come down here. It's only for the top. And this proportion stays the same all the time. Okay? Okay, what else do I have over here? Oh, a couple nice things are in the book. This is one of their charts. We've got a nice chart for traditional versus a contribution margin income statement. And the thing to remember, we've got gross margin, contribution margin. This is organized by function, so we've got product costs up at the top, period costs below. This is what a formal financial statement would have on it. Okay, contribution margin, which would be for internal use, is organized by the way the costs behave. So here's your variable costs up on top and fixed costs down on the bottom. And the only place, a couple places here you've got to pay attention, like when it comes to selling expenses. There'll be a variable piece and perhaps a fixed piece. Or selling general administrative expenses, there might be a variable piece and a fixed piece. Okay? Now here, again, the operating income is the same. Don't plan on that, all right? If you've got inventory, it's not going to be the same, okay? I think we actually do absorption versus traditional costing pretty far into the course, like maybe chapter 11 or something like that. Okay, so here are the basic formulas that you need, and you cannot have a formula sheet on the exam. Okay, this needs to be in your head, and if you do a sufficient amount of problems, it's just going to be in your head, and you don't have to worry about memorizing things. Okay, so break even in units. Total fixed cost divided by the contribution margin per unit. And put a little sub-U in there or something, okay? So if you figure that all your little contribution margins, if I take all my individual contribution margins and divide them into the total fixed cost, that will give me how many units I need to break even. Okay? And then the next one here is sales dollars to break even. This would be total fixed cost divided by the contribution margin ratio. So if we did this one here, sales dollars to break even would be our fixed, and for this one, let's just do it real quick here. This one would be, I can't see anything. Oh, it's in Word. Okay, it would be 200 divided by our contribution margin 0.6. What is that? I thought I was in Excel, but I'm not. Divided by 0.6. Of course, it's 3333333. Okay, that would be break even. That would be break even dollars. Yeah, I probably have a math error in here. Just watch. Okay. Okay, that I do. Just watch. All right, and then the last one is how do you calculate the contribution margin ratio? That's your contribution margin divided by total sales. And I really think that the clearest way to think about that is right here. Okay, that's your contribution margin. This 40% is actually your cost percentage. Okay, and again, we're dividing the sales is always 100%. It's the biggest number, so it's got to be the 100%. Okay, so that's enough to get started, and now we'll do some problems.